and warm welcome to the newspaper review segment of the morning show. Good morning, Africa. We are live from our studios here at number 48, Wanaka Street in Abelinkwe. We're also live on Facebook and on YouTube at Pan African Television. We have some very nice topics to be discussing, on the show this morning, as we usually do for God and country. The first story says prosecutors seek 30 years for Compaore in murder trial. Prosecutors seek 30 years for Compaore in murder trial. And Mahama, he says time is taken for Ghana's ailing economy, urges government to consult before it is too late. Apiate explosion. Government slaps Maxam company with $6 million fine over breaches in manufacture, storage, transport of explosives. And finally, Roads Minister hints of converting toll booths to washrooms. So these are the topics that we'll be discussing on today's show. I'll be very much happy. I'll be more than glad if you send me your thoughts on this, on these topics, and I'll be more than happy to read all of them for you. Let me remind you that the show is proudly sponsored by Trasaco Springs. If you want proper accommodation, quality, which is also affordable, it's high time you contacted them. They have, lands, houses at very, very affordable rates, which you can buy. And we all know the accommodation wahala in this country. That is why Trasaco Springs, they are there for you so that you can consult them and they'll help you resolve your accommodation issues. I've been joined in the studios by Professor Dr. Mauto. Good morning, sir. A warm welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning, Blaise.
I hope you are in excellent health.
By God's grace, we are coping.
You've seen the topics we'll be discussing, of course, like we usually do. We do our African story. But before we even get into the topics, I'd want to seek your opinion on a topical issue for the very fact that you are an economics teacher or lecturer, if I should put it that way. We've seen, international rating agencies rate the countries, economics, the whole economic blah 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 blah. We've seen the likes of Fitch. We've seen Moody's, which of course the government isn't too enthused about. We've seen, I think is it triple C
one.
Yeah, triple C1. It is the worst of them all. I think you would agree with me. And if you look at the country's, economy, if you look at our economy right now, if you look at the fact that they are saying that if we even go to borrow, the probability of us paying is infinitesimal. We can't pay. So any organization or any institution that decides that I'm going to lend Ghana some money, it is a high risk venture, and that the probability of them getting their money back is like you have no chance, literally. So we have this particular situation, which of course I think you may have heard the finance minister say that they are going to ask for a review. What are the economic repercussions of such ratings on the ordinary Ghanaian?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Blaise, and good morning to all your viewers. I think this has been a topical issue for the past days, and it also tells you that Ghanaians are becoming so enlightened when it comes to economic issues. But I don't know why you are surprised, because we have been discussing this here virtually every Wednesday. Just that we have been assessed by an independent credit rating agency, and the various ratings has been published, and Moody's publication is no different from what most financial connoisseurs were expecting. Let's get this right, okay? When it comes to credit rating, Ghana has always maintained what you call the speculative status. You know, we've never risen to the highest level of, the prime level of credit rating before. And let's also not forget the fact that those ratings gives investors, that confidence in the country, that when I commit my financial resources to this country, the country will be in a position in future to settle any obligation they owe me. Okay, so it's very, very important. And often than we even go and subject ourselves to peer review. And since 2003, we've never gone beyond a speculative, status before. Even the entire African country, countries that we have, apart from I think Botswana also, none of our countries have, gotten any good ratings before. It has its own implications. But let's look at the Moody's downgrade, what it implies to the average Ghanaian, and then why we should be worried. Are you okay? It's very, very important that thus credit agencies take into consideration your economic, fiscal indicators as well as your monetary indicators. Okay, so if and they don't pick data in abstract, in isolation. They pick data churned out by the government. Okay, so it's not a data. It's not something like they pick from somewhere. They either will go to the Ministry of Finance website, as well as the Ministry of Finance regulates the monetary policies of the country. Then BOG also looks at the fiscal policies. So here they pick this information and then run the data in their model, and afterwards they come out with the ratings. Indeed, a number of proponents have criticized some of these international and global credit rating agencies. That's another issue to discuss. But the most important thing is that as a country, we have never achieved that good ratings, okay, which will put us in a status that any investor at all will not charge more for bringing their money here. Okay, currently the US and the UK, when they go to the bond market globally, the interest they pay 1%, 2%, 0.5%. But in Ghana, what do? We pay so much because of even the speculative status that we have. And what this means is that, you see, when you still operate within, if your status still remains within the speculative status, it simply means that the likelihood of any investment going bad is very high. That's what it means. Okay, just that Moody's has downgraded us further, which means that currently the default rates of the Ghanaian bonds and debts are quite high. But in reality, one will ask, are they really high? That when somebody comes to invest in our economy, the default, the likelihood of the person defaulting or Ghana defaulting the settlement of that investment is high. We should have data of whether Ghana has defaulted. That is one. Historical information as whether Ghana has defaulted as and when the existing loans fell due and we could not settle. Moody's did not address that. They gave an outlook different from the ratings. The outlook was favorable, but for some parameters they considered, the ratings went down. Are you okay? But as an investor, the question I ask is, for the past few years, has Ghana defaulted in settling its immediate and long-term financial obligation? The answer is no. None of the three, credit rating agencies have stated that. But the issue has to do with the future prospect based on your fiscal information you have provided, your economic performance or data that you have provided. Currently, we all know that in the short term, they are looking at whether you can pay your interest. Okay, your interest. Because if somebody invests in your economy, you should be able to pay the interest as and when it falls due within a year. Okay, even if it's not be paid by cash, but you have to show that evidence. Currently, we are talking about a country where we have a high cost of capital, absorbing a significant chunk of our annual revenue. Are you okay? And then you are also looking at a revenue stream where there are fixed and constant expenditure that we have been discussing virtually every week, every Wednesday, that with these two items, that is salaries, wages, and interest, cost of borrowing, when you add it, it absorbs over 70% of our total revenue. Okay, and then this credit rating agencies looks at the current situation and predict into the future, and if they use their model and realize that it establishes that indeed, given the current status, you may not be able to settle your immediate obligation, you'll be downgraded before it even goes into the long-term obligation. Okay, it all looks at what do you call it, your projections. Now, even the total revenue that was projected in last year's budget, which included the e-levy, January is gone. Okay, we are in February. That 7 billion component has not yet been added. So there's this probability that it may not even probably be added to it. So when they are computing their, or they are running their data, they may not consider that provisions that you made. So our total revenue that was budgeted about 100 billion will now be reduced by this whenever they are running their data, because they'll pick the data and what is running currently in your country. It is very, very important to know that, look, these are some of the objective, considerations they take. They normally will factor in computing their rate. Now, the government has come out to debunk that they did not use the required data. I think what we need to get from the government is to provide that evidence that they should have used ABCD data, and that was not used. Are you okay? Those are things that as a country we need to provide, and you have the right to also probably question some of the rating by these international organizations. But bless, that is not the main solution. Okay, it's an African problem. It's an African problem. The West European Union country is even better than the best performing African country when it comes to credit rating, because from the word go, we are at a disadvantageous point.
Right.
You know why? One of the major determinants has to do with your foreign reserves. Our foreign currency reserves are dominated in dollar, not cedis. So there's no way we'll perform better against the West when it comes to credit rating.
Right.
Now, not only Ghana or Africa. Are you okay? Now, these are things you have to be looking at as a continent when it comes to realistic computation of our credit rating. And currently, Africa, we don't have any recognized credit rating agency. China has its own. They do their domestic rating before they subject themselves to the global, rating. Right. But we always, and my problem, let me land with the major problem I always have with our politicians in this country. Okay. We will always flag the issue, we flag the problem, but we don't look at the long-term solution to solve the problem. That has been the bane of this country. Look, none of these two parties have gone beyond speculative status before. And the speculative status simply tells you that there's some level of risk when it comes to settling your debts. Are you okay? None of them. So the question is, there should be that conversation, national conversation, and come out with very good plans which will cascade to every part of the economy to address the problem. Today it is NPP. Tomorrow it is NDC. The next moment we don't know which party will come in. But as a country, okay, these are things that we have to look at, I mean, without any partisan, consideration. But the unfortunate thing is that each and every one of them, whenever they have the opportunity, will only critique without giving the precise answer to how to solve the problem.
How to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We would talk about the economy in our second story. We would zoom our lens on it proper. But for now, let's turn our attention to African story. We'll discuss that briefly. But let me welcome Dr. Masu. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the show. I know the traffic situation may have contributed to your lateness, but we'll take that. Right.
Sure.
So, for African story, prosecutors seek 30 years for Compaoré in murder trial. Military prosecutors in Burkina Faso have requested 30 years in jail for former President Blaise Compaoré over the 1987 murder of his predecessor Thomas Sankara. The court was asked yesterday to find him guilty in absentia of an attack on state security, concealment of a corpse, and complicity in a murder. At the request of the defense, which has yet to make a plea, the trial was then suspended until 1st March. Sankara was an army captain aged 33 when he came to power in the Sahel state in 1983, renaming the country the following year from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, which means land of the honest man. He enacted a string of sweeping economic and social policies, including nationalizations, public housing, and a ban on female genital mutilation. The Marxist-Leninist, he railed against imperialism and colonialism, often angering Western leaders, but gaining followers across the continent and beyond. Sankara and 12 of his colleagues were gunned down by a hit squad on October 15, 1987, at a meeting of the ruling National Revolutionary Council. The assassination coincided with a coup that brought Sankara's former comrade in arms, Blaise Compaoré, to power. He ruled for 27 years before being deposed by a popular uprising in 2014 and fleeing to neighboring Côte d'Ivoire. All right, so that is our African story tabled for this morning's discussion. Let me again start with you, Professor Malto, briefly on this particular story about Blaise Compaoré and his alleged involvement in the death of celebrated leader Thomas Sankara.
It's a normal African problem where the West will always use one of our own to destroy ourselves. Okay, like the story you just read, we all know that Sankara indeed took over through, a peaceful coup d'etat. Okay, and is one of his confidants, that is Compaoré, also took over, but his own was a bloody one, killed virtually. This is alleged that he was highly involved, but bless. Sankara is one of the few African leaders whom, whenever I read about, I got a sense of a domestic leader who want to domesticate his leadership by finding domestic solutions to our domestic problems. And that is what the West doesn't like. Are you okay? Look, what was his mission? His vision for Burkina Faso. Okay, changing even the name of the country to Burkina Faso, the land of the fearless. It tells you that the man had good vision for his country. And today we are even fighting female genital, what do you call it? Mutilation. We are fighting it as far back as the 80s. This is somebody who ensured that there were policies, laws to stop it, to prevent it. This is a great African with a great vision. Sankara was one of the few African leaders who wanted to change the face of the Burkinabe economy, not to depend and rely on the West. Within the shortest period, he was trying as much as possible to use African resources to solve African problems. Whenever you want to sway into being self-reliant, the West will come in. And that is what is missing out in our leadership. Now you see, you may have all the good ideas, but you should also have that defensive strategy. Okay, to defend yourself against the unseen enemy. Okay, how on earth do you expect, a very close confidant of this man to have done what he did to this man, the alleged, because it's something that is going through trials, and I'm very happy that at least the Burkinabes our brothers in Burkina will at least find some peace in their heart that indeed justice will be meted out to the family of Sankara and those who were lost in that brutal attack and that murdered Sankara and his team in a meeting. That was unfortunate. Indeed, we know in the Burkinabe law, once you commit a crime, you have to pay for it. And some of these leaders, one of the reasons why they always want to stay on for so long is because they've committed some crimes. So they want to protect themselves with power. But you see, power, they say that, look, you can fool some of the people all the time, but not all the people all the time. You got to a time that your guns, your army couldn't even defend you. But the people, the power of the people, when the people says that indeed we are tired of you, forget it. That's the day you realize that you cannot fool all the people all the time. Bless. I think it's good news for Africa. Some of these decisions should serve as deterrent to African leaders who think that they will be in power forever. However, wherever he has got to seek asylum, please, this man must return back to his country to face the law. Often I know when they finish, then they travel to countries seeking asylum there. Those countries have signed international treaties not to accommodate some of those people. They should bring him back to his country to face the law than to allow them, those people, to seek protection in their countries. Look at Gambia, Baba Jammeh. He's somewhere, in spite of the numerous alleged crime against humanity. So you see, there's a way out. It makes, crimes attractive to African leaders. Yes. Okay, you commit it another country, and the hypocrisy. The level of hypocrisy in global governance. The very people who are preaching good governance will protect such people. It's unfortunate.
Right. Thank you very much. Let me come to Dr. Mazouk.
Always, and thanks for the opportunity to be here. I'm sorry for being late. You were right. Because of the traffic situation in Accra. All right, thank you. Yes, this is an amalgamation of bad news and good news. Bad news because it reminds us of the bloody nature of African politics. The good news because it is an attempt to ensure justice. And that is what we should stand for. I am looking at it from two perspectives. From the perspective of real justice, and then from the perspective of vindictive justice. If the authorities of Burkina Faso today want real justice, then which we must all support that. But if their action is geared towards vindictive justice, then we must discourage that. In any case, it is always good for any leader of atrocious history to be made to face justice. And therefore, from the face value, or on the face value, we must support every effort to ensure justice for Sankara. Sankara was, of course, a Pan-Africanist, not just a mere rhetorical Pan-Africanist, but an action Pan-Africanist who wanted to ensure that white supremacy is as a result of black inferiority. But black inferiority is a tribute to white supremacy. You only allow white supremacy if you activate your own sense of black inferiority. And this was a man who demonstrated to the whole world that he wanted to liberate Burkina Faso from the manipulation of Western imperialists, particularly France. He had demonstrated. And therefore, definitely, because of the level of sabotage in international politics, and of course in domestic politics on the continent of Africa, he was not successful. So if today a military regime has come to ensure justice for him, then of course we must support that military regime. But let that military regime itself understand that for destroying a whole constitution, that military regime must do everything possible to justify the destruction of that constitutional order, and to ensure that tomorrow some of them or all of them will not be called to account, or they will not be subjected to the same trial to ensure justice. Let me take this opportunity to tell Ghanaians, you know, there are politicians who are today subtly supporting the wave of
Yeah, that's true.
in Africa.
Yeah.
And even some politicians, very respected politicians, are subtly or openly supporting even in this country. Look, let them understand that it is because of constitutionalism that they are politicians. Let them understand. Yes, let them understand.
That is very strong.
Yes, of course.
I mean, it's worth saying.
Yes, let them understand that coup is not a rebellion against a political party. That is why the French word is coup d'etat. Coup against state. De is D-E, but in French, two vowels don't meet. So when the two vowels meet, the first vowel is made an apostrophe. Okay. So if you spell it, it is coup d'etat. It should have been coup d'etat, but coup d'etat, because you make the first vowel, the E, an apostrophe, right? So it is coup d'etat. It's not coup de MPP or coup de NDC or coup de CPP. Yeah. It is coup against the state. So it's a criminal offense against the state.
It's against democracy.
It's against democracy. It's against the conscience of the people. It's against the liberty of the Ghanaian. So let no one, no matter their frustrations, call for coup in this country. We have gone past that era. And if we want resistance, we can do it without the military intervention. Yeah. We want resistance, we can show the power of the masses.
That is it.
And we have witnessed it in contemporary African history.
Oh, yeah?
We have witnessed it in contemporary Arabian history. The peninsula, the Gulf. We have witnessed it. The Arab Spring.
Yeah.
We can do it without the involvement of the military. This is not to say that we are downgrading the military. No. The military as an institution has a role to play in governance. In fact, primarily, DS is to protect the territorial integrity of the Republic of Ghana. And even in conventionally, sometimes, when domestic issues, when police find it very difficult to handle domestic security issues, the military are called to help. So we respect the military as an institution, but let them remain in the barracks to discharge their constitutional duties and civic responsibilities, and then professional performance. Let no one call for military coup in this country. I think the Constitution is enough for us to find a solution to any malfeasance in governance. If a political party doesn't perform, you wait. The Constitution gives you the opportunity. You wait. After when the time for elections comes, then you can use the ballot, not the barrel of the gun. Let no one call for that. And I always say that let us be mindful of the bad experiences, the evil experiences we went through during the dark days of military adventurism. And of course, if you give them the opportunity, that there are very, very fine gentlemen in the military. But when you give them the opportunity to overthrow a constitution, the bad ones will overthrow the good ones within the military and disturb the whole nation. I cannot undermine the military. My own uncle, Commodore Tahiro, a general, because a commodore in Navy is an equivalent to a general in the Army. He was the commanding officer, the commandant of the Ghana Military Academy. He has held a lot of positions in the military. I cannot undermine it. We have a lot of fine military officers in our family, just as every family does have, right? And therefore, it is important for us to understand that the call for military intervention itself is subversion. That alone is unconstitutional, is unpatriotic. If there is anything at all, let us be bold enough. And if the military misbehave, let us come out and confront the tanks. We must not confront the tanks. We should not do anything possible to relegate to the background a constitutional order and democratic governance in this country. Right. Let us not do that. Right. So today, I am appealing to the military authorities to ensure that whatever they have initiated in relation to the murder of Sankara is not based on vindictive justice, but on real criminal justice. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Mazouk. We'll talk about the Apiate explosion. We understand that government has slapped Maxan Company with some $6 million or $6 million fine over breaches in manufacture, storage, transport of explosives. But before that, we'll get into stories about the economy, because former President John Dramani Mahama is saying that time is taken for Ghana's ailing economy, and the sooner government consulted, stakeholders, the better, before the economy, crashes. But again, I wouldn't want this to be a Mahama thing. Let us look at the economy generally. Let us we've seen Fitch's rating. We saw Fitch's rating in January. We saw Moody's rating, a few days ago, and the government, of course, clearly has not been happy about it. And I started a conversation with Dr. Mauto, Professor Dr. Mauto, on what it meant or what it means for the average Ghanaian, for those of us who buy our kinky, those of us who buy bread, what it means for us. Let us focus our attention on these ratings and the possible repercussions that it could have on Ghana's economy. Already, like Dr. Mazouk stated, our general annual revenue, I think some 100.5 billion. Yes. If you take remuneration or salaries and you take loan services, I think it takes about 70% of that. And so the remainder of whatever we make is to provide for our roads, is to provide for free SHS, is to provide for one district, one factory, is to provide for one village, one dam. It is to provide for all these, development that we want to see as a people. Is it possible? Looking at the tangent we are treading, is it possible that we have all of these, all of these goodies promised by government operation? I think is it 111, the hospital thing, operation 111? Is this initiative going to be realized by government? Looking at all our economic woes, we want to have a brief discussion with regards to that. So I'll again start with Dr. Mauto, who is a member of UTAG, I believe. They are striking over poor conditions of service. It has been over a month now, and the government, it looks as though has not it has paid deaf ears to their cries, because of the very fact that if you take our general revenue, if the government decides that he is going to increase Dr. Mauto's salary, if the government decides to increase Dr. Mauto's salary, Charlie, is going to spell doom for us. So of course, Dr. Mauto, you have the floor.
Okay, I think it's good. The call by the former president to probably have very sincere, the word is sincere, non-partisan, a national conversation on how to probably turn around the fortunes of this country. Okay, it's good. I mean, it's good. Like we always say, we have people with ideologies. We have people with the penchant to provide solution for problems. So when you open up a stakeholder consultation, then you get ideas from series of professionals coming from all walks of life, even including chiefs and all that. So a national conversation on how to turn around the fortunes of this country is very good. However, I am not impressed or enthused with this issue of let's go back to IMF. Let's go back to IMF. Let's go back to IMF. So it has become the order of the day that, you see, just have issues. I don't want to use the word mismanage the economy and then go back to IMF. How long will Ghana go back to the IMF? It's time we even take a second look at the impact of IMF intervention on Ghana's economy. In fact, if you even take a careful look at the IMF policies, they are for short term, to address problems for the do we need only short-term solutions? Okay, we don't need only short-term solutions. So today, the politicians take over, try to address the issues mentioned by the IMF in the short term. Once they're able to address it, they go back, must manage the expenditure. Are you okay? Spend more than what they are supposed to spend. I mean, they are not able to manage the waste in the system. Then at the end of the day, we go back to IMF. We become laughing stocks. It is time we have that sincere conversation and look at how to manage our problems within. Problems within. Okay, let me spare them this. But we need to be very careful and serious as a country. Are you okay? To take a critical look at how to generate revenue in this country, how to seal the normal word we use, the loopholes, when it comes to revenue generation. And it boils down to the government machinery that is supposed to function effectively in generating revenue for the country. And I've always been saying this, that, you see, in our respective districts and communities, are you okay? The DCEs play major roles, are you okay, in helping to implement the policies of the central government. But I always ask, the caliber of DCEs we have in office is always questioned as to whether they have what it takes to manage the various districts and the communities that they have been tasked to head. Revenue has always been a problem of this country. And then, worst of all, how to manage our expenditure is even a problem. Are you okay? We overspend. We don't even take cognizance of the fact that there's no revenue. Like yesterday, I was a little bit amazed that even the e-levy, which in principle, I said it's a domestic solution we are trying to find to solve a problem. Are you okay? The conversation is not changing that the e-levy, when it is passed, the road contractors or the Ministry of Road will get some to even settle. When did the e-levy become a prerequisite for payment of contractors? No, Chairman. No, please, sir. No. You see, these are genuine questions Ghanaians must ask. Okay, in as much as in principle, some of us have praised, the system for probably looking for an alternative. Are you okay? We are critiquing the system, all right. Are you okay? We should be mindful of how to even manage it when it's even passed. Are you okay? So these are issues we need to have that sincere conversation. Now, let's look at how to manage expenditure. Are you okay? We have a system where leadership tells you to manage economically, but you don't see that. They're not demonstrating that. In fact, I'm not talking about only this government too. It has run through over the years in the Fourth Republic. It has run through over the years. I'm very happy Honorable is here. The big man is here. You need to be sat down already. Oh no. We miss him. Okay, we miss him. We miss him. Yes. Was there last week though. Oh yeah. I was here with him. So I'm just. I was in Cairo. Yeah, you told us. So when it comes to these two variables in our annual budget performance, that's income and expenditure, it calls for a very genuine conversation, and then we change our ways of doing things in this country, not to always depend on the West, not to always depend on the agencies established by the West. Are you okay? Look, for every intervention from IMF, it will surely hurt Ghanaians. So yes, I mean, none of the government have gone to IMF without any punitive repercussions when it comes to how they want to implement their policies. Are you okay? So we've gotten to the stage where there should be. I agree with President Mahama, our former president, that indeed we must have a sincere conversation about the economy. Are you okay? Open things up. Let people bring their ideas. Are you okay? And then let people speak to the issues. Then we come out with a Ghanaian solution, not an MPP government solution. Please, I hope I get the picture. You see, when you want to implement policies effectively, it calls for the involvement of the people. Not after you have completed the formulation, but you start from the bottom. That is what theory teaches us to do, because that brings that sense of involvement by all the people. Yeah. So the suggestion, the submission to have a stakeholder conversation, sincere. I always use the word sincere, not the partisan one. Are you okay? Sincere. Then come out with one policy document which was formulated by all Ghanaians, but not the MPP government. That is where you have everybody coming on board. You see, now the conversation is changing a bit. Now, with respect to this e-levy thing, are you okay? E-levy was introduced without that proper stakeholder meetings. Today, some MPs are in their constituencies having meetings with their people about the e-levy. Yes, the ministry is going around from region to region, educating them on the essence of the e-levy.
That is the power of the masses.
That is it.
Force them to do that.
Thank you. You see, that's the beauty of democracy. You don't get this in military rule.
At all.
You will not get it all.
No, not at all.
It's a decree.
I'm telling you.
Once they formulate it, you go by it.
Yes.
So in fact, let me reiterate on the point
Yes.
you submitted.
Thank you.
That indeed, no politician should think that today, because of the problems, the economic problems we are going through, not as only a country but the whole world. Okay, so you should be praying for military takeover. Forget it. It means that you, the politician, okay, you want to end your career as a politician because the military doesn't know a politician. It means that you, the politician, you want to truncate the democratic gains you have made in this country. For democratic dispensation, are you okay? This government would have passed this e-bill, e-levy. But the power of the masses has compelled them to go down to the grassroots, to start explaining. Now people are asking questions. Why? Why this e-levy? Tell us what you use it for. People are even asking the government to peg the e-levy to a project, so that it will not be. You see, those are things that it now confirms the definition of democracy: that government for the people, by the people. Okay, so indeed, I mean, in conclusion, I think the former president's call for a national conversation is in the right direction. The government must involve everyone, academia, chiefs. Are you okay? Look, in the midst of some of these problems, chiefs play important roles when it comes to formulation of economic policies. You can't do it without them. We have financial experts. We have companies in this country. We have AGI, we have Guta. They are all players in the economy. Invite them. Are you okay? I don't know what the problem is, but you see, engagement has been the problem of successive government in this country. Look at the 50% benchmark. We have the government has to withdraw it because there wasn't, adequate engagement from the stakeholders. The change in academic calendar by the ministry, that's the GES, from trimester to semester have to be withdrawn because we have not. You see, the decision did not come from the people. Are you okay? Those who have to implement it didn't come from them. So we are not engaging. In fact, the contemporary leadership is about engagement to people. The current youth, the current people in the world, are you okay? Have learned that spirit of entitlement. And yes, indeed, it is good that we should be entitled. It's our country. And we have to ask questions. That's the only way we can develop this country. So I agree with the former president that it is not an MPP problem, but it's a Ghanaian problem. So we have to solve it as a Ghana problem.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Mauto. Dr. Robert, you are not blending. He is a former member of Parliament.
Yes, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you. You're welcome, sir. You're welcome, sir.
Yes. He's also the senior citizen on the panel.
Exactly. Right. We've been discussing the economy, for that matter, for the fact that some of these rating agencies have rated the economy, and if you look at all of them, it's not encouraging. If you look at the ratings they've given us, the last of it, I think the Moody's with the triple C one, and it has gotten even the president spoke about it. The EU meeting, like I said, it's high time we stop giving these rating agencies the freedom to just come and say, okay, so on that. But this isn't the first time that rating companies have taken a look at our economy. It has been there, like Dr. Mauto earlier intimated, since 2003. Yes, and I think there are times, like you said, it has never looked great.
No, it has never.
Yeah.
It's always speculative.
It has.
We'll give a partisan explanation.
No, but
No. I just want
But Dr.
preempt the conversation.
But Dr. Manso,
I want him to understand that, you see, irrespective of what he's talking about, none of, in the Fourth Republic, since 2003, we've never gone beyond the speculative status before.
But I think there have been times where it has been positive, a bit positive, as compared to now,
Positive
where we
within
are getting
speculative status.
Yes, as compared to now that we have a triple C1 status, which is like junk status. If you ask me,
It's not junk.
it's not junk.
No, it's not junk. You see?
Yeah.
It's not junk. Junk status simply means that you even historically there's a demonstration that you have even defaulted in the payment of your existing loans and interests, but none of the credit agencies have reported that the outlook, based on the outlook, that Ghana has defaulted in the payment of its loans as and when it falls due. None. So it's not junk. Junk simply means you cannot pay. In fact, there's evidence that you have not been able to pay.
And you cannot pay.
And you cannot pay in the future.
Right.
So it's not junk yet.
Right.
And therefore you cannot borrow.
Dr. Robert, let me kindly give
borrow,
Dr.
but it's expensive.
Mazouk the floor to opine on this particular issue.
All right. Thank you so much. Knowledge is very important. And because of the enormous nature of knowledge, it has been compartmentalized.
Okay.
And that is why I am a communicator, a linguist. He is a financial expert. However, when it comes to the implementation of knowledge in real terms, the ordinary Ghanaian does not care about your expertise or your qualification. What the ordinary Ghanaian cares about is the practical reality of your claims. Former President John Mahama, as quoted or as stated in the headline, mentions words, economy, and consultation. Then in economy, by economy, he qualifies it with the adjective ailing economy. Let's ask ourselves, within the packets of the ordinary Ghanaian, is the economy ailing or not? If you ask me, I'll tell you that in practical terms, how the ordinary Ghanaian will respond to the economy, it is ailing. So it is a fact. It doesn't matter the figures. Go and bring these economic figures or those economic figures. No. What matters is bread and butter. I'm telling you, that's what matters. Whether you go to IMF or you go to any other imperialist economic institution, what matters to the ordinary Ghanaian is that he or she wants to eat. So, to the larger population of Ghana, the economy currently is ailing. You can disagree with me. So it is a fact. It goes on to mention consultation. I think consultation is one of the fundamental principles of democratic governance. And if we pay attention to consultation, we will maximize patriotism and minimize partisanship, which is destroying proper good governance in this country. In fact, he calls it consultation. Prof calls it engagement. And it is the same. They are synonymous. Contextually, at least, they are synonymous. So it is important for the rulers of this country, for this government, that believes in Ghana beyond aid, to consider the consultation and to listen to the wise words of the former president. This is not the first time such a consultation should be conducted. We remember in Professor Atamiel's regime, we had the Senchi Summit, or whatever you call it. But I attended a function where a leading member of MPP was talking about how he was rejected by his own people just because he participated in the Senchi Forum. You understand that? He made it clear that when he was asked, your people are not coming, then he asked, which people? The Ashantis, they say no. The Achimotas, they say no. But which people? Ghanaians, they say no. Which people? They say your MPP people. I mean, such mentality should not be entertained in serious democratic governance. But is it only a problem of MPP? Certainly no. NDC on so many occasions has also done same. So our problem is not that we do not have the intellectual capacity to address our woes, but that we cannot bring the various forms of the intellectual capacity beyond our partisan considerations to find a solution to our problems. But that has always been the case. So if former President John Mahama calls for consultation, first of all, the call should not be viewed as a partisan thing. Then, that consultation, if it is heeded, should also not be done as a partisan project. It should be in the interest of the Republic of Ghana. Fortunately, on our part, as I have already stated, this is not going to be the first time. Professor John Atamiel, a very peaceful man, very good man, an intellectual, saw the need to do it. So if His Excellency, from the President, His Excellency, current President Nana Akufo-Addo, also sees the need to do such a thing, please, I am telling the same NDC not to view it as a Nana affair or an MPP affair. They must also attend, no matter the circumstances. Let's bridge the gap of partisanship, come together. I believe that there are very serious, practically oriented, very serious, very capable economists in NDC, and there are very serious, very renowned, competent economists in MPP. Both traditions have scholars who must come together, go beyond their partisan considerations, parochial interests, and solve the economic issues of this country. Let me also make it clear that, sometimes it's so amazing. Why should we even go to the imperialist institutions for examination of our conduct? Why? So let's go beyond. In fact, I cherish the MPP agenda, Ghana Beyond Aid. And if we are serious about it, then I agree with Prof. The solution is not just merely going to IMF. No. So you are telling me that Africans themselves, the whole African continent, cannot marshal scholars and industrial experts to have a version, their own version of IMF. Is that what you are telling me? I think if we are serious, we can have it. So the issue is not just going to IMF. Let's look beyond the IMF. We have gone there and our problem persists. It hasn't stopped. So let's consider other alternatives. Let's consider other things, other ways. And if we even sound unconventional, we have to. If we are expected to sound unconventional, we have to. It is not the case that when you go to IMF, automatically you solve your problem. Let's consider other things. Let's make sure that ours is African. Our problem is African, and the solution must also be African. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. I actually wanted to ask a question
Of course.
about the readiness of even this current administration to have that form of dialogue with the NDC, because Mahama made this statement, I think 2 days ago, or I think yesterday, and Gabi Ochedako, he said that Mahama advising the MPP on the economy is like a stammerer trying to ridicule Sarkozy's raps. That is what he said.
You see, so in the first place, you see, because this is Ochiri Daku.
Yeah.
See, he's a friend or an uncle. Let me put it that way. I do not have any reason to disrespect him, but because we are not serious as Ghanaians, former President John Mahama makes a statement on state policy, right? And Ochiri Daku, who formally is not a member of government. Of course, you should, or unless, of course, maybe he's a member of government, I don't know. To the best of my knowledge, he's not a member of government. He's not an appointee. He's a government appointee. He's a party person, right? So when former President John Mahama makes a statement on Ghanaian economy, perhaps based on his expertise, right, we should not expect anybody outside government to influence our own analysis and understanding of the former president's statement. Someone less in terms of importance in MPP can make another statement in relation to or in response to the statement by former President John Mahama. And that is the beauty of democracy. Until the government, MPP government, as an institution, comes out formally to respond to the statement made by former President John Mahama, I do not think, and I cannot conclude, that the government is not ready to listen. But if there is any communication emanating from government or from any government institution responding formally to former President Mahama and claiming that the government will not be ready to do any engagement, then we must have the basis to conclude. As it is now, Gabi Ochiri Daku speaks in his capacity as a citizen of the Republic of Ghana. I don't think he speaks for MPP. And if he does, I am challenging him to come out clearly to speak for MPP. Now, even if he speaks for MPP, remember, MPP is not government. MPP is the governing political party. He may have the right to speak for MPP as a governing political party, but formally and in the right context, he cannot speak for government because he's not an appointee of the government. We respect his words. We respect his right, his liberty to speak on issues. But we should not take whatever he says as the position of government. And if we allow him or we view him in that direction, then the so-called de facto prime minister position assigned to him is being systematically accepted. I don't think we should accept any title that is outside the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana and the conventions of good governance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me come to Dr. Robert.
Yes. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you, Prof. When you are lucky to have a very capable and erudite nephew like Dr. Mazouk. He takes all the words from you and you are not able to say very much. He has dealt with the topic very clearly and capably. For my good friend Prof, he is non-political, so I won't say much about yes. But coming to talk about this government and their unrelenting effort to pass the e-levy, and the fact that now they are doing consultation is neither here nor there. The consultations they are doing is as a result of the backlash from ordinary citizens who are saying that they are not capable of paying this e-levy. We have gotten to a point where we must, as Ghanaians, learn as we are going forward. For me, it is poor democracy when you would have to withdraw up to 3 of your policies. 3 of your policies within first 2 months of 2022. 3 policies withdrawn by government. This is not a listening government. This is a lazy government. Because in coming up with these policies, you had meetings amongst yourself. You spend money. And if you spend money, Ghana's scarce money, to do these 3 policies and withdraw them, you have caused financial loss to the state. And somebody should be answerable. You see, if we were in a meritorious country where people are appointed into positions because they merit those positions, people would have been resigning their positions or be given a sack by this time. You see, so we are not in a country where we appoint people on merit. We are in a country where we appoint people because of who you know. And the who you know are the people messing us up. They are messing us up. A policy of this nature is not a top-down policy. And so when you come out and say that in the military, listen, like Prof said, it would have been a decree. Look, there is no military decree that just comes like that. It comes after good thought. And when a military decree, it is equivalent to a policy that was implemented by government without consultations and consensus. And this government has a penchant for introducing policies that it hasn't consulted with the larger Ghanaian population. And we have seen so far that they are empty. They are empty. They don't have the men. They don't even have the women. And so we have seen it clearly that what we need to do is to get them to begin to realize that they don't have the men, they don't have the women, and the larger Ghanaian population is smarter and wiser. You don't implement a policy that requires the generality of the Ghanaian population to buy into it without consultation. Now, what are you are now going to consult during town hall meetings. What are you telling the people? That the policy is good? What are you telling the people? That what? What is it going to happen? After every town hall meeting, they should do voting there. They should really allow it for mass participation, not select audiences, paid audiences to come and say, hooray. We don't want that. Just allow. You can organize and go to the stadium and call people and say, look, come and vote. After all your talk. And all the economic talk has been worse, nothing. Worse. And now we have realized that the difference between the NDC and the MPP in terms of economics is that we have practical economists. Not theory, not textbook economists. The fundamentals of the economy will expose you. And now you are worstly exposed. Yeah, you have been terribly exposed, but when you were, where are you?
I told you that.
Will Bawumia at this point ever come to tell us that he knows how to manage the economy of Ghana? With all sincerity? After saying all what he said and saying all what he thought was wrong with the NDC management of the economy. Right now, the economy is going wayward. We don't know where we are going. We don't even know how much, where we won't borrow, we won't borrow. Now you have borrowed and people are not willing to lend you money again. No investor is interested in giving us money again. You are the one who told us that you won't borrow. At least we were lucky we had people who could give us money, even though we were not willing to just grab money left, right, and center. You are grabbing left, right, and center, and now those people who were giving you money say they won't give you again because you are not credit worthy. Who was managing the economy better? If I'm credit worthy, I can go and borrow, and you cannot go and borrow. Then you are telling you are good managers of the economy? You are extremely poor managers of the economy. Extremely poor. Let me tell you, if Ghana belonged to an individual, the performance of Bawumia as economic, the head of the economic management team, he would have been sacked. If Ghana was a company, CEO, and Bawumia is your CEO, he will still be there. Ken Ofori Atta was your financial management accountant. He will still occupy that job? No. And so we are in a country where we have to look at our culture. Our culture. Our culture is what is defeating us. Our democratic culture is extremely bad. I can tell you that even within MPP, there are people capable of becoming ministers who are not, because they think well. And so you rather want people who will be there just to be dancing around and making all of us suffer. The Senchi summit that was held, there was no policy in mind. It was a forum for people to go and then talk so that we will elicit policies, we will elicit views so that we will come and construct policies for the development of Ghana. It wasn't an afterthought. It was the beginning of consultations that will liberate Ghana from the basic crisis that we're facing. And that is what John Mama is calling for. Let's dialogue. Let's talk. Let's talk. We think Ghana. We don't think anything but Ghana. And that is why if they do a Senchi type, you would see NDC people participating because they love Ghana first. They love Africa first. They love the vulnerable, poor Ghanaian first. And if this country is working well, it's working well for both MPP and NDC. It's not like the case where the venerable Kwame Mpianim went and he was chastised for going. The man is an economic brain, worked with IMF. He has experience. He is a grandfather. He is coming to volunteer his information for the progress of Ghana. And then party activists chastise this old man and they tell him not to go back home for going to help. NDC ran the country successfully. How can you think so myopically? And that is a problem we have in this country. And we must look at our democracy. There are certain fundamental flaws in our democracy, and that is where we are where we are. Some people cannot be touched. Some people cannot be touched. All ministers must sign contracts, performance contracts, like Akamels did. You must perform. And if you are not performing and there's wastage in your ministry, you sit down there and then we bring you more money. From where? We bring you more money from where? Perform. If you cannot account for some money in the last audit, go back, retrieve that money. Retrieve that money before you come and ask for more money. If we were doing that to our ministers, to our ministries, things would have been very, very different. But here people blow money carelessly and nobody talks about it. You blow the money and you go your way. You rather come and ask for more money. We can't continue to do that. Which government runs a country aground and yet has limitless arrogance to always say they have the men? What is that? And the political talk must stop. Bawumia must realize that he is there to execute programs and projects, economic programs and economic projects that alleviates the suffering of Ghanaians. He's not there to be giving political talks without effect on the ordinary Ghanaian. We must stop that. It's not all the time that we have to campaign. This is the time to think, not the time to talk. And Bawumia has proven that he is a good talker and he has a lot of empty economic talk that doesn't translate into anything to alleviate the suffering of the ordinary Ghanaian.
Right. Thank you very much.
I told you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Robert.
You see, I told you that Honorable will surely speak for his party. But we rather speak for Ghana. Are you okay?
How many times did I mention
You know, I told you not to. Sorry.
right?
No, you see, I told you that this credit rating agency said we shouldn't even politicize at all. Not on partisan basis. Because these two, I gave you the data. None of the government in this country, since the Fourth Republic, has been able to lift us from the highly speculative status to even a middle-level status.
So when you are B+ and you come to
you are still speculative.
No. Look,
you see,
what are you saying, Prof? Whether speculative or not speculative, the capacity to go and get the loan is what is important. You cannot borrow. We could borrow.
You know, it's an independent peer review.
Yes.
Independent peer review. Are you okay? We should be looking at having a national solution.
Exactly.
You see, that is what I said. You see,
the national solution is in retrieving the monies that we have misapplied. That is the national
honorable.
The national
Right.
Are you saying that the era of NDC, there was no irregularities? No money. You see, we shouldn't do the micro comparison. Obviously, I see when they're talking about national youth. No, during the time of NDC as well. Look, it's not only MPP, so it's a national issue. It's a national issue we have to address. I mean, without partisan status.
Right. Let me. I want to do a few of our Facebook messages, then I'll come back to you kindly.
Are we only interested in the outcome and not even the benchmarks? We can also subject their rating.
Oh yes.
As far as you are always borrowing, you cannot subject them to anything. You are poor, you are mismanaging, you are largely criminal in your use of resources.
Right, I'll do a few of your Facebook messages. I'll do a few Facebook messages, then we go to the next topic. Kwame, acidity, Action says it's clearly shown without e-levy, MPP government can't transform this country. I'm very disappointed in Road Minister converting toll booth into public toilet. We'll come to that particular story pretty shortly. And Tawani Effendi says, better an illiterate to rule a nation than these thieves in the name of politicians. Okay. Ali Musa says, it pains me to see our countries in Africa, after so many years of independence, see the way we are today. Look at the UAE. When did they come together? Can you compare any African country to the UAE? All right, thank you very much. Kofi Mensah says, let's make some. Okay, I won't read this. I refuse it. I won't read it. Abdul Razak Mahama says, "Oh no! It's some offside." Everyone says, "Please tell Dr. Malto that I, Abdul Razak Mahama, says it's about time he dissociates himself from being a neutral panelist to a partisan panelist. When we started listening to this program, he said he's not to expose his partisan colours from his academic point of view. But as for now, it is too much."
I always take a position.
He said also tell Dr. Mazouk that he should stop partnering Dr. Malto. It is submission almost all the time.
Not political academic.
That was the time I met an MPP person. The same thing.
The person goes on to say that I should stop skipping the messages when we send them. KOD reads them. It's them. Yeah, he's lashing everybody,
including yourself.
That's the beauty of democracy.
That's the beauty of democracy.
Understand. I'll read all your messages, I promise.
How dare you send this message at the military room?
And the little room.
Gambo Sadiki says, "Good morning, Pan-African, watching from Qatar. God bless you." Julie Belinda Ogri says, "Accept that your government has failed." Raymond Adu says, "The e-levy is a well-orchestrated strategy by Akufo-Addo's government to shift blame to the citizenry for governance. The moment Ghanaians reject the e-levy, it's a long one, very, very long one. Please, you can keep the messages coming, and I'll read them. I'll read them."
I'm surprised Honorable is mentioning Baumia's name. I don't even remember the last time I heard Baumia on some of those issues. No, but why the personal attack to Baumia?
No, it's not personal. But he's supposed to even
the economic management
I
speak about
think,
these issues.
In fact, in your submission, you mentioned his name throughout.
No, but
I mean, is Baumia the president of this country?
No, but he
is the CEO. He is the CEO of our economy.
Exactly. It's only right that I understand. Let's talk about.
Bless, what do you
wanted us to
Bless,
talk
what do you
about the
understand
Apiate explosion, but I think it's there's not too much to be said about it. The fact that the government has slapped some $6 million fine on Maxam company. I think they've paid. They are paying $1 million of it, and then the remaining 5. I think it's a step in the right direction, and I'm hoping fervently that particular money taken will see to it that the people who or the victims of that particular disaster will be taken care of. Basically. But let's talk about the root minister. The fact that he has been in the news lately. Yesterday, I watched him. I watched that particular footage of his saying that, of course, his ministry is considering converting the toll booths to public washrooms. It has attracted some form of backlash. He's saying that oftentimes when people travel on these long journeys and blah 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 blah, they indiscriminately wee by the roadside and do their thing and blah 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 blah. So the toll booths, which was one time earning the country some form of income, will now be converted to to washrooms. He was on the floor of Parliament yesterday, and he said that we had taken that particular comment out of context, and I don't understand. Seriously, I couldn't understand him, because whatever he said was what he said. You understand? Whatever he said was what he said. So I don't see why he was actually, for the want of a better word, he was struggling to explain himself. In Parliament, when he was questioned, he was queried about this toll booth issue. Already we know the history behind the reason why the collection of the tolls was seized. After the budget was read, just the day after it, he took that, should I say unilateral decision, and brought out a press release, which with a funny press release with some flippant, justification, if you ask me. Yes, he said, people were fighting at the toll booth and blah blah blah. They thought that it would. Oh, you didn't read it?
I read it.
That was the time I was in America.
Okay. Yeah. So he actually came out with his ministry came out with a press statement justifying the reason why they are, they have seized the collection of tolls. He said that, of course, a day after the announcement, that very morning, the next morning after the budget was read, some of the drivers were fighting with the toll collectors that government says so and so and so and so. He said it resulted in fisticuffs and some people were even injured. According to that press release, some people were even injured. I don't know whether that was, that is even true. But to the best of my knowledge, I never saw any media station or any outlet report of any incident at the toll booths that very morning, after which the budget was read. I'll start with Dr. Mazouk briefly. I think we have some 20 minutes. We can do 5 each.
All right.
Yeah.
So toll booth. In the first place, we need to be fair to the minister, so that we can also criticize. For him to take a decision, every minister has what we call operational discretion, right? And I think it is part of the management values, part of the management conditions. If you are a manager, you have the operational discretion, so you can take a decision based on your own operational discretion. So for him to suggest turning toll booths into washrooms could be part of his operational discretion, right? So, but beyond that, beyond his operational discretion, how feasible it is, how productive it is, right? Feasibility and productivity. I am not an engineer, but I'm a man of common sense. The way our toll booths are constructed, you need huge sums of money to turn them to usable, constructive, positive washrooms. I cannot, only a civil engineer or an engineer can tell me how it should be done. But no matter what, since I am also a man of common sense, I can know that you need a huge sum of money to do the transformation. Where will the money come from? Number one. Number two, it is important also for us to know how much the washrooms will fetch for us and how much the toll booth fetched for us. It is important for us to know so that we do comparative analysis. 3, it is good that we have washrooms, but is the minister saying that it is only the toll booths that can be converted to washrooms? Is that what the minister is saying? Can't we have another project that will provide washrooms for travelers? Can't we do it? I think all these questions could be answered by engineers. But from my commonsensical view, I do not think that it is feasible. I do not also think that even if it is feasible, it is productive for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Let me come to Dr. Kugan.
Yes, for me, there must be something wrong with my good friend. I would say he's a friend because when I was in Parliament, he was nice to me, I was nice to him. But I think there's something wrong with him here. And that is what is largely what is wrong with the country. Because I don't know, you talked about operational discretion. Well, I don't understand what this means. Operational discretion has to go with common sense.
Sure.
Nobody is saying that on our highways we shouldn't have service points. Yeah, we need to have service points where people will go and then ease themselves. Some private people have done it. Lindado on the Accra Kumasi Road, you can see that. I think Jofel has also done one on the road to Accra. These are some of the things we need. But to talk about a toll booth in the middle of the road.
Exactly.
What are you thinking? You see, some people, maybe rightly, when they were young, could be very smart. But growing to some age, you may suffer some dead brain cells. Because if you were to go to a doctor, and tell the doctor that I want to build toll booths, I want to build toilets, I want to build toilets where the toll booths are in the middle of the road, that doctor will detain you for further assessment. Simpliciter, that doctor would not allow you go because there's something wrong somewhere.
You then become a legitimate candidate for
psychiatric asylum. Asylum, they used to just hold them by force and put them there. You have to go to asylum. And not asylum down, we go to asylum. The down has changed. the whole this thing. And so that is what it is. And the minister should remember that Parliament wrote to him to reverse his decision. And he has not answered Parliament.
Contempt of Parliament.
That is contempt of Parliament. And that tells him that the issue of that discretional, operational discretion he used is not to the satisfaction of the chunk of Ghanaians. Wow. You are looking for money. The country has no money. There was this very convenient and easy to tax system. You came with your operational discretion, you have scrapped it. And then now you have that audacity to tell Ghanaians you want to put toilets in the toll booths. One of the reasons he gave for cancelling the toll booths was the fact that it caused congestion, pollution.
Yeah.
There was inconvenience because people were trading along that. Unfortunately, disabled people were working in those toll booths. They have not been paid. If the toll booths were not making enough money, it was just a human problem. And so you have to close the loopholes and make sure that we generate that money. Now that money is gone.
Digitize it.
Yes, Baumia's pet baby. That money is gone. Nursing students don't get their allowances. Teachers don't get their allowances. NAPCO don't get their allowances. If this money was put aside, we would have collected enough money to pay these fellows. We would have collected enough money to pay the disabled persons who were working in those booths. And so there must be something wrong with this road minister. You know, he's quite erratic. And if it was a proper government that was employing people based on merit, that was engaging people based on merit, I'm sure my good friend would have been today answering questions in the office of the president. Because you cannot say things like this. You can't just say things like this. You are an embarrassment to the whole country. Go and stand in parliament and you are talking about converting toll booths into toilets. Parliament of Ghana. I mean, how? Is that what we are paying you to think? Is that what we are paying you to think about? In fact, and you know, I also listened to him when he was trying to explain in parliament, and he was fumbling throughout. He was fumbling. He was very incoherent. I didn't understand what he was saying. I couldn't listen to the end. He was just fumbling here and there. That man, I think, has outlived his usefulness in that ministry. And the earlier, the better. They are young persons, smart people who can think well. And so that when we pay them, we know that we have people, we are paying them to think well as ministers. People who understand what Ghanaians need at this material moment. And people who understand policy in such a manner that we don't have disjointed policy of this nature. You cannot scrap this source of income. And you have to remember that one day, some government coming will bring back this. That I am very sure of, because we have paid this since Kwame Nkrumah and will continue to pay, because it is a convenient way of making money. And now I've thought that building some of these bridges over the overpasses, we could have even tried to tax more in terms of the use of those bridges, because it is also a way of reducing congestion on the roads. If you don't have need to drive, you don't drive. If you and your wife, you are going to the same place, why can't your wife join you? But two of you will be using two different cars. You are causing congestion. But if they tell you that if you use this, what do you call it, bridge, you have to pay. You would. And so we have different systems. People who use the roads on a daily basis to go to work, they will have special tickets they buy so that they can, because they use it all the way. But if you are coming from Cape Coast or Kumasi or from the north and you get to Pukwasi, you have to pay, because that is once a while that you are applying that road. And so that those who are within town, for example, Tema, and you are working in Accra, there's a toll for you to pay. But that toll is a little bit less because of the fact that you use that road on a daily basis. You don't use that road as a commercial fellow. You are going to work. You're going to produce something that will be taxed for Ghana. That is how we apply discrimination in taxes, such that people are not disadvantaged because of the fact that they live within that area and they apply the rule. And so this man is not thinking right. He's not thinking right at all. And if we continue to let this man stay in this position for the next 3 years, I'm sure we will be in deeper.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I know Dr. Malto has a lot to say. Let's see if we can do that in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'll surely do that. I think let me submit on the Apiache issue that indeed, if we want proper accountability, then the media, I mean, the CSOs must always follow through whatever decision has been taken by the agencies, especially thus compensation they are supposed to pay, and as well as the pledge that they will settle the remaining in 18 months. The media must, it's a responsibility to follow through whether it is done. Okay, so that the way and manner human beings were created, whenever there are lapses, the human being would surely take advantage of it. That's why we have systems in place. That's our work. I mean, we ensure that systems work. So this is just a call to yourself in the media. Now, let me now submit on the road minister's issue. To be frank with you, the decision to scrap the road toll is one of the decisions I think this government must admit sincerely that it was a mistake. It was a mistake. You know, levying people in this country, I mean, virtually everywhere in the whole world, to establish a systematic levy takes series of education, commitment of resources, and we have an existing stream of income. Then a minister writes to scrap it. Just like that. And one of the major reasons given has to do with congestion on the road, on the highways. Please, the road ministry should conduct a survey on the users of the Temamoto, which is just closer to us.
That's true.
As to whether what they observed before this decision has been served or has been achieved. No. It is even worse. In the morning, I live around Medina, close to East Legon, sending my children to school. Now, on daily basis, you see traffic, traffic jam on the motorway. Maybe it's my eyes, but I think the ministry must conduct a sincere survey to know from the people whether the policy they have initiated, and implemented is working to plan, and whether the expectations has been met. In terms of the revenue losses, I agree with Doc. I mean, sincerely.
No politics.
No, please. This one, I disagree with Honorable when he goes partisan. Yeah. Okay. Look, the decision, has stifled the country of revenue. Is it October? They should calculate. Look, by now, this revenue could have been used. I won't call DAPCO. UTAG is on strike. We are on strike. That revenue alone would have been used to augment what we are asking for. But we've lost it because of somebody's decision to do that in anticipation of a higher one. So we ask. I think I also watched the video, but this morning it seems I'm hearing that he didn't say it. He said he didn't say it. In Parliament. He didn't. Okay, that was the floor of Parliament.
Yeah, he was struggling.
Yes. Yeah. No. I'm very cautious these days because you see, until you become a victim of this audiovisual manipulation, you will not understand that even in this same studio, there was a video purporting that I said something. Are you okay? And they were playing it until it was digested, and I got to know that a voice was behind my human nature, speaking like me, but it wasn't me. When we got the original video from you, then I got to know it was one PNC General Secretary who made that statement. But not me.
It was attributed to you.
Oh yes. It was with the voice, my voice. But I knew I never made that statement. It was a statement about the vice president. I don't even want to say that I made a derogatory statement against the vice president. And it was playing until I asked for the original video. And when I got it, then we got to know the one who said it. But my voice was behind it. It was all over. Okay, so I'm very cautious on those videos when it comes to submissions by people. I see. Be as it may.
It is not enough to claim that he didn't say.
Oh no. Okay.
It's not enough to claim that he didn't say A.
Okay.
It is good for us to say and to tell us what he said.
Thank you.
I didn't say that. It's one thing.
Yes.
This is what I said. It's another.
So I think when he appeared on the floor of Parliament yesterday, he said that we are taking that statement out of context.
Okay. So it was said.
Yeah, he said it.
Okay, all right.
He said it.
All right. This is admission. If indeed
he said it,
it has been taken out of context. The statement was made.
So we should bring it to the right context.
He made it. I actually wanted to get it, but because I had a lot to do, I couldn't. Otherwise, I would have even played it for our viewers.
That's okay. Indeed, if he said it was taken out of context, I mean, a statement was made.
Said, yeah.
Okay. That thinking about converting road tolls, like the boot, to a washroom on a highway. Do you know what you are causing again? The very reason why you scrapped it,
I'm telling you,
will be worse off. Yeah. That I have to park my car on a highway and go and use it.
Maybe they have a special engineering design.
Chairman. Sorry. See,
maybe
this boots were designed purposely to generate revenue. And indeed, if we are having issues with even using human element, let's look out for the alternatives. Look, even Senegal here, trot drivers are using cards to pay road tolls. Chairman, go to China. You drive out of a community, you are paying a road toll.
Yes.
You drive out of, not like the entire province. Like there are road tolls virtually everywhere. So you are driving out of Accra to Isawum, there's a road toll. Well built, and you can buy your ticket in advance, just scratch and you are gone. Yes. So these are the solution to reduce traffic congestions on highways. Are you okay? Not the human element. So if there's a problem, the best way is not to scrap it. No. Okay? But to look for constructive alternatives to do that. I mean, we will always speak to policies and issues. This particular decision, let's all admit that it was a bad one. Apart from, yeah.
Okay, Prof, could it be a state policy or the government's decision instead of the ministry's decision? Because it's like everybody's talking about the minister. Perhaps beyond the ministerial level, it is a public policy. It is the policy of the government. And that is why the president may not be able to call him to order. Because if you have a policy that is opposed by almost every Ghanaian, then of course you must rethink. This is about democracy. So perhaps, no, I'm just advancing your argument. Perhaps, yes, perhaps it is not, it is above the minister. Perhaps the minister is only made to justify it in his capacity as the second minister.
We don't know.
And that is what I'm saying, yeah. And that is why he may be found fumbling.
It was
My nephew has to use my words.
So I think the government must admit
Yes.
that it's one of the unfortunate decisions, and I recommend that let's reintroduce the road tolls. It's a levy that every Ghanaian has accepted that indeed we have to pay. You know, those tolls are meant to always ensure that our roads are renovated and all that. I quite remember Dr. Doc's what do you call it, party. I remember very well the former president said there was a period his government wanted to increase the road toll. I think that was you increase from 50% to 1 cedi or so, or 10% to 1 cedi. And we were promised as Ghanaians that we are going to be given monthly and quarterly reports of the road tolls. Where is it? I don't know whether you have ever asked that question before. It has never been reported to us before.
We did.
The next question when they were asked was that it will be audited by the Auditor General, so it will reflect in the financials. That was the response they gave. If it was given every month or quarterly, we would have seen it ourselves. So you see, the issue of Ghana.
How many Ghanaians will even read the auditor's report?
No. You see, the auditor's report.
I'm emphasizing the point. How many Ghanaians will read it?
Before that statement, it always reflects in the auditor's report. But you came to say that, look, to enhance accountability, and democracy, are you okay? You will give quarterly and monthly quarterly reports. It never came. So you see, let's accept. I will say that, look, we don't need to ask for it. In the first place, we don't need to even ask for it. Once you have promised, you need to deliver.
In the first place, we didn't ask them to promise.
Yes, thank you. Because they wanted the increment. Yes. They said, look, for the sake of ensuring that I will be accountable to you, and I'll give you, I'll furnish you a report on a quarterly basis. But he's asking me whether we asked for it.
And in matters of accountability,
you promised it, and you never delivered.
In matters of accountability,
we had a road fund administrator. So when government comes out with a broad policy, whatever information you want, you can get it from the administrator. You could go to the administrator's office because it was supposed to be used for mental.
No, you go to the administrator. Look, you said the statement.
So who report?
I wish you had that video that will report to you, reporting this.
So you can.
No, we now get it. We now get it.
You see,
just a minute. The conclusion is that the administrator should have reported it. But the reality is that he did not report.
He did not report.
That is it. That is it.
He did not.
Our projections on our roads and our propensity to own cars. What we have to do is everybody, one car, probably no tax. Any other, you say tax, any other car you have, we graduate the tax you have to pay monthly. In other countries, that's what happens.
You can even make it better. Yeah. When you develop the railway sector. Chairman, I wouldn't even want to drive to this town of town, this part of town. Going to the stress. If there's a railway that I'll just alight around this place and then pick a car here.
Yeah. Look, let me come.
Consumption of fuel is minimized.
I'm talking about equity. I'm talking about equity. People have 6, 7 cars in their homes, and they are not paying. No, I'm not saying stop it. No.
In fact, if I get money, I'll buy more cars.
Let me finish with that point. Yeah, you love cars, you pay.
You pay more, yeah.
You think that the home use cars that we get here, why? People buy cars and then they release the old ones. That is why we have all cars here. It's not because they have plenty cars in their homes. That is why they are releasing old cars for us to be buying here. So it's simple. You love cars, you love luxury cars, you pay. A graduate, people cannot pay. In the UK, people cannot pay a year. So you pay monthly.
Yeah.
You have to pay monthly.
That's true.
For your excess cars you have. And people have 6 cars, 7 cars, 8 cars. What is that? You need one car to do your work. If your wife is also working, one other car. Any other car, you pay tax to discourage the wanton purchasing of cars everywhere, and you causing this congestion on a road. If a society is not disciplined, we cannot go anywhere. And that is how we must discipline ourselves, because we can never build enough roads to make sure that the traffic that we are experiencing today, we don't experience it tomorrow. Right. Mauto is living in Ethiopia, Mars or somewhere, I don't know. Railways. Listen, the promises they made, they gave us they will have railway moving to Burkina. Even the old Kwame Nkrumah rails, we are getting accidents every day. We can now even maintain that triangle. We can maintain the rails on that small triangle. That's why the accident today. This is as if we manufacture coaches. The coaches are falling all over the place. We are inefficient. And so, because we are inefficient, let's manage the little that we have in a proper manner.
So, why are you saying the railway is not necessary?
It's very necessary.
I don't want.
Maybe he's questioning the feasibility of it.
We cannot. What we cannot do.
It is feasible, and these two parties must ensure that it is provided for this country. You see, if you want to solve the problems, make it feasible. That is why the developed economies, are you okay, did everything possible to develop their railways. Today when you go to the US, you don't need. Oh, please, it's not 4 years. In the Fourth Republic, since 1992, are you okay, to 2022, how many years now? How many years now? The governance has rotated among these two parties, and they continue to confuse Ghanaians by accusing each other. Whenever there's a problem, then they'll be playing. You see, that is why.
Railway.
I think you have an MPP t-shirt. Just give it to him to wear.
No. You see, the two parties, what they do is to accuse each other. Whenever there's a problem, it's not sitting down to solve the problem for us. Ghanaians are calling for railway. Are you okay? And his party, go and read the manifesto. It is in there that you develop railways.
Bro. Yes.
What have you done?
Bro.
What have you done?
Bro. No.
This current government promised railway systems. What have they done? So I'm accusing all of you.
Is that the solution we want today?
The solution is that provide railway system for the people in the country. Cost-wise, it is efficient. Productivity. I don't need to spend too much money on fuel
at all.
Fuel consumption will reduce. Now there will be efficiency when it comes to the issue of reporting timely to your various offices. Are you okay? Like if the ease of life in New York City is that
exactly. I wanted to mention New York City. In New York, it doesn't matter whether you have
a car or not. It doesn't matter.
Even it is better for you to leave your car and use the subway.
Because it's expensive to even drive to town.
Yes, expensive.
Because where to park the car, you have to pay. So you will be compelled not to even drive. The system has compelled you not to drive. Are you okay?
They didn't even promise rail. They promised
Skytrain. Right. Thank you very much. I'll do a few of your messages, then we call it a day.
All cities, all major cities of the world, all countries, they develop through water transport. Water transport. In England, in those days, they had to dig a canal from the south to the north, artificial canal to transport logs and things to build their country. We have Akosumbo running through the country. I say Akosumbo, the Volta. The Volta Dam running through. Can you imagine if we were to dredge that and allow ships, platoon, to cross that?
Honorable has joined with the lamenters.
Yes.
16 years of governance. In fact, 8 times 2. 60 years of governance. So now he has joined us to lament.
The real supply chain. We cannot build that. We don't have.
Thank you very much. I'll do a few of your messages.
Honorable, it has joined the lamenters.
Ahmed Rufai, Udozia says, what is wrong with mentioning Dr. Bawumia's name? Is he not the head of the economic management team? Dela Abdallah says, our so-called educated ones. No, I can't read this one. Why do you stop road tolls and bring e-levy? This government is not serious. It has no long-term plans. Road minister converting toll booths to washrooms for money. They should rather use the Flagstaff House. They should rather use the Flagstaff House. He said they should rather use the Flagstaff House, some parts of the building, as washroom. Okay, thank you very much. Dave Isaac, I think in our current state of our economic crisis, Ekuadonko could have done better. Wow, interested. But James says they should use the Flagstaff House for washrooms. Oh, okay. Ibrahim Washara, I can't read your message. I'm sorry. Ali Musa saying I cannot read your message. Kenon Hillary says the outcome of the grown-up leaving the high office for the young energetic men to step in and work passionately for the integrity of our dear country Ghana. In fact, it is a disgrace to the party he claims he belongs to and to the family as a whole. I wouldn't blame him too much. All the blame goes to the president because he thinks he has the power to appoint ministers without proper approval from parliament. Ali Musa says what we must do is to relocate businesses out of Accra, redistribution of resources, including people. Time is money. Therefore, wasted on traffic jams. Seriously, you will need a patriarchal dictator to rebuild Ghana because you have to start from the beginning. And Nkrumah's blue is still there. Right. Bra Valencia says, watching you live from the government has failed. We all need to understand. China can do everything because it did not adopt the Western system of democracy. Yes. Akure Albert says the Minister of Roads and Highway comments about the Minister of Roads and Highways comments about converting the toll booths to decent toilets and urinary pits is unfortunate, though not surprising, because the pressure of the e-levy he is supporting is against the principle of taxation, and hence he can't do or say things. May he repent from supporting e-levy and get things right. My regards to Honorable Dr. Roberts, the incoming MP. Right, thank you very much, and that's how we draw curtains on a very interesting edition of the Morning Show. Thank you very much, Dr. Roberts. Thank you very much, Dr. Mazu. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Mauto. See you same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.